All right, guys, it is Wednesday and I'm feeling spiritually motivated and inspired. And I thought, why not, go in a couple of words of inspiration to people who need some inspiration. But this is a personal reflection. I'm thinking as a healer, as an African spiritual healer, as a sangoma, as a life coach, as a relationship coach, I'm asking myself, Coco Dinawa, what are you yearning for? What am I really hoping and desiring as a healer? I am yearning for a community of practice. A community of practice of African healers where we can come together to support each other in this work that we're doing. I'm yearning for us to understand the complexities of the human system, that which we are trying to attempt to heal as facilitators, as agents who've been chosen, as custodians who've been gifted the gift of healing, that we are actually working with a complex entity that is the mind, that is the body, and that is the spirit. That in our work in an intervention as healers, we don't have to know it all. It's an understanding. I'm yearning for an understanding of us understanding individually as practitioners what is my mastery? What is that I'm gifted with? What do I specialize with? But I'm yearning still for that community of practice where I can say, here it is not my lane. Can I take you to somebody else who slays very well in that lane? Can I take you to a community? Can I take you to someone? Can I take you to a colleague? I'm yearning for a colleague, someone I can pick up a phone and say to them, I am struggling with this issue. Do you know what it means? Because spirituality, it's really complex on its own, because you're dealing with an evolving system, you're dealing with a world unknown, and once you tap into that world, things unravel, even those that you don't know about, even those you've never experienced and encountered for. That's why I'm yearning for a community of practice where there can be loving support, where there can be encouragement and motivation for us to do our best in what we are being called for. I am yearning for a community of practice where we don't need to compete, where we don't need to compare, where we don't need to feel like we need to be perfect in all that we do, where we don't need to feel judged for being different from what the norm is or what tradition has taught us to be. I'm yearning for a community of practice where we can cheer each other on, where we can celebrate you for owning your own. We can celebrate you for being a blogger. We can celebrate you for completing your training process and choosing to do and use the skills in which you have learned through training and the process of Utwasa and apply them in a corporate space. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can say you are doing your best with what you know, and they can teach you more so you can know more and do better. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can deal and break with some of the stereotypes and the deeply wounded psychological belief systems around our identity and what we are and who we are. I'm yearning as a healer and as a sangoma for my people who look like me, black people who can say, we trust enough in what you do and we will put value in what you do. We won't question why it is what it is. We will question to understand how come what is seems so. We will question how come what you're saying is going to help and enabling me to get to a new direction, to move to a path in which I'm aspiring for myself. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can see the gift in difference and diversity, that can see and be okay and make peace with different abundance, because at the end of the day there are many paths, but they all lead us to source, and that we don't have to shun the other for us to shine in our own paths. We don't have to pull down the other for us to rise above and be where we need to be. I'm yearning for a community of practice where we can give each other emotional support, understanding how painful and how traumatic and how challenging this work is, understanding that it takes all of you to give all of you. It takes all of you to be in it for the real. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can stop and reflect and say, hey, are we on the right path? Are we in alignment with source? Are we in alignment with those who've entrusted us with this gift? I'm yearning for a community of practice that instead of rushing to be the next best thing can actually go within, and how can I be me, the next best self, not thing. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can continuously question and ask the right kinds of questions of how come things are the way that they are. How do we work with sacredness and secrecy? How do we continue doing this work to create enlightenment, to create healing? I'm yearning for a community of practice that is willing to collaborate with unlikely allies, because we can see the gift in other healing modalities, because we understand that in this century, the human complexities that we are dealing with require multiple interventions. They require the psychological, they require the medical that can help us deal with some of the deeply embedded physiological issues that the patients that come to our practice are experiencing. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can say, hold on, it's okay if we don't get it right, but what can we learn from this person's case study? What is that telling us about the practice and the practice limitation? What is this telling us about a direction that we need to be shifting towards? I'm yearning for a community of practice that does not celebrate one's downfall, but goes and offer a hand of help, not a hand to bury you down. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can see that somebody else's light and shine, it's an illumination. It's giving you permission to shine your own light. I'm yearning for a community of practice as a sangoma that can say we continuously need to invest in our own emotional and psychological well-being as practitioners. So in our attempt to heal the other, we're not projecting our own wounds onto the other and further making those that we are working with unwell. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can say, yeah, I made mistakes. Yeah, I missed the mark. Yeah, I don't know it all. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can make certain things be okay, but a community of practice that can help us gather, can have us have a circle, a healing circle for the community of African healers. Because as African healers, we go through so much before we are even birthed into the calling. And in the calling, we go through so much that really unravels and awakens certain wounds that we did not even know that they existed within ourselves. They're evoking wounds that are not even our own, but they are wounds of our mothers, the wounds of our fathers, and the wounds of our great parents that unravel so much of family pathologies and toxologies that I alone cannot do it. It's a community of practice that really understands that we need each other. And it's okay that I'm not a gynecologist. I can actually take you to Gogo X because they know and understand issues of fertility better than I do. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can work with other practitioners within the African healing system, that can formulate healthy relationships, that can formulate healthy relationship with midwives. I'm yearning for a community of practice that does not only say I am a proud Gogo, but can say I am proud of the other Gogo. I'm yearning for a community of practice that when one steps away from my practice and goes into your practice and says things that don't make sense, that you judge less, but you inquire and you pick up a phone to DM me, you pick up a phone to call me and say, hey, I'm getting this. What is your story? Because I'm yearning for a community of practice that understands that there's always three sides to a story: mine, theirs, and the truth. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can listen deeply, intuitively, without filtering. What is theirs? What is their own assumption? What is their own judgments? But to say, what is truly spirit guiding me to do? I'm yearning for a community of practice that can go for each other and not against each other. I'm yearning for a community of practice where there is no favoritism. There is no, you are better because you are this. But to say, hey, I like how you do this. Share more. Give me insight. But be okay that whatever that I do might not be for you and your people because they've got something much better than you have anticipated. I'm yearning for a community of practice to say, I am stuck. Can you help? And help is offered and rendered without making you feel superior over the other. Just understanding at that moment, you had capacity, you had ability to help me navigate around my complexities. IsiZulu sithi izandla ziyagezana. Tomorrow it might be your hand that I might need to be washing. I'm yearning for a community of practice that can teach initiates, but you don't burn your bridges. Because ikaya, no matter how broken, no matter how toxic your mother can be, and your father can be. It doesn't change that they have given birth to you. You don't always have to be in their balcony to be part of their community, but never ever shun where you come from. Never ever discredit where you come from, because you never know when you need to go back, because where you're going, it's an unknown world. The spirit world is complex, it's dynamic, it's forever changing and evolving. Just note that and remember that you never know. And right now, as much as you know, in your knowing, don't ever think you're above the other. Don't never ever think you're the it, because you never know. I'm yearning, and I'm yearning. Toza.